technology in the construction industry evolves rapidly, faster than ever. But technology alone does not drive change. People do. Digital construction champions do. Today we have a special guest, Petru Conduraru. So, Petru, would you introduce yourself, please, for our audience?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Petru Conduraru, as you pronounced it very correctly. I'm originally from Romania. I lived a big part of my life in Norway, like 12 years. And right now I'm traveling through Southeast Asia while I'm building my business, BIMvoice. And to simplify what I do, I'm an OpenBIM consultant and trainer. I worked for 12 years in the construction industry in different roles, from design to latest BIM coordinator on large infrastructure projects for the past 3 years. Should I go deeper in details about this? Feel free to
maybe some achievements in your career, maybe something like.
Okay, so
because you have interesting story. You have on business. You're not a normal, regular working guy. You are something special.
I'm working more than regular guys, you know.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. I'm traveling, but not only holiday, right? I'm working a lot, but I love what I do. And I do this because I had enough of bad collaboration in the industry. I've seen enough, and I want to help people do better when it comes to this. And my vehicle for this is OpenBIM, because OpenBIM opens everything. It makes projects work, not only across organizations, but also countrywide, like what's happening in Norway. So yeah, I'm very passionate about BIM. By the way, I also started a podcast called BIMvoice. That's my brand and my channel that I started 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. But now I pivoted from doing interviews, what I did in the beginning, and now I do teaching and consulting and training. But I'm very passionate about BIM. That's the gist of this. In Norway, I was lucky enough because not only BIM, but OpenBIM, it's very popular. Almost all the clients in Norway are requesting OpenBIM, right? And that was a perfect environment for me to get exposed to it, become passionate, and really decide to do something about this. And that's my goal right now, to make a big impact in the entire world, to bring OpenBIM to everyone in the world without any barriers to countries or continents. And in this, like, I can say some things about my earlier career, but like I said, like I mentioned, I started to work in Norway in 2014. The thing is that I worked a lot on the design side. I designed bridges. I worked on design teams for bridges, for tunnels, stuff like this. So mostly infrastructure, right? But mostly tunnels and bridges. That's my niche. And but for the most part, the highlights of my career, the things that I'm mostly passionate about and that I'm still continuing pursuing, it's this. It's about coordination and management of projects that are empowered by OpenBIM. I never felt quite in my own shoes when I was working in the design, so that's why I looked into coordination, and this fit me like a glove because I really like meeting people, talking to people, and solving problems. And this also combines very well with always having to research and use the best possible tools that you have in an arsenal to make your projects efficient. So yeah, in what I have to say, what I think it's quite special in my last experience, which I finished in July, because since then I'm focusing on building my platform. I worked in this tunnel project for Oslo municipality, and we built a the new tunnel for water supply in Oslo, because Oslo used to have only one water supply, and now they are building another one, bringing from the fjord as an alternative. And what is cool about this is that the client wanted for this project to be built model-based. That means that we didn't use so many drawings on this project. We did have drawings, but not many. The idea was to use the models as much as possible. And since the bulk of the job is structural work on an infrastructure project, on a tunnel, then means that all the steel, all the concrete, and all the reinforcement models, all the steel, all the concrete, and all the reinforcement information was not delivered as drawings, was delivered as models, IFC models, right? And we had to use this. By the way, I worked as a BIM coordinator for a general contractor, so not for the design team or the client. And we had to use these models on site. And that was my task, to make sure that we have the information in our models and to make sure that everyone can find the information and can use it. So this was a very, very nice experience to really have the chance to push for proper use of IFC models, because most of the time, unfortunately, IFC models are just some deliveries at the end of the project, which no one uses for anything. But in Norway, this is happening. Yeah, I can talk for days like this.
In Europe, I'm living and working in Germany, so what happens in Germany is typically IFC model, or even model itself, is just a track of record at the end of project. So it goes to archive and it stops to exist. There is no digital twin ambition. So from that side, do you have some solution that is continuing the life cycle of the model after the closing the construction?
Well, first, let me clarify that we didn't use necessarily the models as a digital twin, because we didn't get there, but we use models on site, right? So we used it for the purpose of building.
Stage, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not normal, because there are not many places where this is happening. Still, the drawings are extremely important, right? But in Norway, this mantra takes place from all the clients, from all the public clients. They want this because they see it's more effective to put once all the information that everyone needs in these models that can be reused during the different stages of the project. But not only then, also after that, because everyone close their eyes when they build the project, and they think building the project is the most important part, but the cost is not coming there. Almost never the project costs more than 20% in the design and building phase. The big cost comes in the maintenance, in the exploitation of the project, and everyone close their eyes to that. And that's why it's extremely important to have good, reliable data that can be used by all the stakeholders. And in this process, it becomes very natural that if you have teams that are willing to use this information, you can do that. And that's why we could do that. But for that to happen, again, I don't have the supreme solution. I don't think, but I have a few theories. I have a few ideas. And I think everything starts with the client. If the client doesn't present that these models have an importance more than just to be an archive, nothing is going to happen. So the client is always the one who sets the tempo on a project. Okay? Right. So as long as the client will not prioritize open data, open standards, and they will be happy to just see their projects built and then waste 2 or 3 more years after that to do that as build documentation, then that's on their own. But that's a cost that everyone just close their eyes. Because now what happens when you do that, when you deliver a project that could be used to be built on site, that means that the quality of this project is quite good. So you don't have to use a lot of time and waste a lot of resources to rework, right? You are already on the right track. And then it's with little tweaks to fix also what it has to be fixed for the handover. And then you can take it and use it actually in facility management, right? But again, I think it's extremely important to start from the client, because until the client doesn't start it, the general contractor will not have any incentive to come to the client and say, hey, look, I think it's cool to do OpenBIM here. That's not going to happen. Like the client has to have the incentive and they have to set the tempo. And for the client to do that, they have to have people who understand how OpenBIM works, how open standards and their importance. But I think it's just a matter of time until this is going to happen, at least at European level, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this thing called OpenBIM Harmony, which is a framework at European level, which is they try to implement European wide, and is going to roll out in the next coming years on projects larger than a specific budget or something like that. So I think this is going to become the new norm, just that like in construction and especially in infrastructure, things take lots of time, right? Because yeah, projects take lots of time to build since they are designed until they actually are built and they start to be used, right? So it's just the nature of the industry we are in. But I have big hopes to be honest. I see a big push for it. Although, of course, there is always room for improvement and anything can be better. I have big hopes for what's happening. I see many professionals, BIM managers, architects, engineers, BIM coordinators, BIM modelers, doesn't matter their role, project managers, clients who are starting to asking about this because they see that there are different threats, it's not always only about the money. There are more things, security, and do you want to tie your data into a specific tool? What does it happen in a project if you have another team that it doesn't use those tools that you impose? Because there are many clients who say like, deliver me a Revit model. But what do you do if you have a team that uses Tekla or ArchiCAD or other tools? It's not fair to impose a specific tool on somebody. That's the purpose of open standards, right? So that's why we have to use it. And again, like I said, I might be an optimist, but I see a lot of interest. My community, I built this community which is called BIMvoice Academy and has grown in the past month, has almost doubled up. From 400, I'm close to 700 people in 1 month since I opened it.
May I join you as well?
You are welcome. Everyone is welcome.
I'm not kidding. I'm waiting for miracle in Germany. It's not fair to speak bad about country that you're living in, but in Germany, there is no ambition to digitalize construction industry. I know that Viking countries such as Netherlands, Sweden, and Norway, they are far way ahead of rest of Europe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I know, for example, because when I was looking for our company, so our Amsterdam office, they were delivering a project and handing over IFC model at the end to the authorities for the review. So this was 5-6 years ago, you know. So
yeah,
I think Netherlands or Netherlands, however is correct, and the Scandinavian countries, they are pioneers in Europe.
I can provide some perspective. You are right, because I can provide some valid perspective here because I worked in these countries and I have many people in my training from these countries. And actually, you might be right about Germany and the other countries, but there is also always a but, and there are always people who are trying to change things. So I know very many people who are interested and who are trying to use OpenBIM. But of course, we expect more from Germany because Germany is the economical power of Europe.
Yes.
And we expect for them to lead. Unfortunately, when it comes to the construction industry, my understanding is that they are a bit conservative, but that doesn't mean that they are not, that nothing is happening. That's also not true. Something is happening. I'm not sure how much it's going to take, but also OpenBIM is overtaking in Germany, at least when it comes to public clients, right? So I think this is the most important because that's also what started in Norway like 20 years ago. If that didn't start in 2008...
But you said right, 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a disappointing thing, you know. Because,
yeah. But that doesn't mean that it has to take 20 years, 20 other years.
No.
Because right now we have the good examples. We see that what's happening in Norway, right? And you said Norway, Denmark, Finland. I think from Scandinavia, after Norway, again, like I might be biased, but there is nothing coming even close when it comes to actually implementation. You can say that Denmark and the Swedes are asking for IFC models and OpenBIM, but I don't think there are many projects where they actually use these models across the whole board. They are still using drawings, and many projects still not mandate OpenBIM everywhere. So it's still a big difference. I think the Finns are doing a more aggressive approach.
But sorry,
so I think
sorry for interrupting, but
sure.
I think there is also issue with the education about knowledge, skills of the workforce.
You have the answer. That's why I exist. That's why BIMvoice Academy exists.
That's right. I just wanted to point out that even if you put the mandatory, you wouldn't have enough people to support the projects. So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
the truth is that there is enthusiasm in BIM world, but it's still not developed well. For example, if you would ask people what digital twin need to do in maintenance, they 50% wouldn't have a correct answer. I was disappointed in some project where we suggested to the client in Germany digital twin at the end of course, infrastructure, IoT devices, and everything, to install. And their answer was, we don't have technicians in field capable to deal with such a model and the database. So we are happy with PDFs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's sad. That's sad. But again, like, there is a process, right? So maybe they say that right now. If you keep persisting, in time, people are upskilling, are training, right? And maybe a manager gets in that company that sees things differently, right? So I think we are heading into that direction anyway, just that we are going to have many roadblocks along the way. It's not going to happen overnight. I see that, like I said, and I'm going to repeat that. In Norway, Statsbygg started in 2008 with the first BIM requirements, open BIM requirements. Let me underline that. And it took many years. Even today, not everyone manages to deliver the quality that is requested. There are still many things that can be improved. But again, the ball is rolling. We are getting there, right? But through each project, through each year, the things become better and better. We also get the tools right now with AI and so on, and it helps. And also the people see the value in this. Like in Norway right now, if you want to work as a BIM coordinator or a BIM manager, you cannot do that without thinking about OpenBIM. You are going to deal a lot with IFC. If you are not comfortable with that, you are leaving out opportunities. And you might not have a chance.
What is your opinion? I heard that, for example, there are some organizations preparing BIM certification for BIM coordinators and managers, and I believe it's a good initiative to adjust the knowledge on a European level, not to have a pockets of excellency and the rest of the workforce, but to have recognized the level of BIM knowledge. You would have some kind of exam, and OpenBIM could be one of the. For example, in building smart, it's mandatory. OpenBIM is not a myth. It's a thing that is applicable in those organizations.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, if you say I'm BIM manager, it's very similar to say I'm engineer. But engineer has certification through the engineering organizations. I see, for example, in UK. And for BIM, you don't have a certification process. You can say I'm BIM manager, and you can just do a 3D model with any data, without any data, impress the older people, So there is no certification, and there is no level of knowledge where you can say, okay, I'm BIM manager level 5 or level 2 or whatever. So I think we need to classify the knowledge.
Yeah.
And have a paper to have the certificate. This is my level of BIM knowledge, and this is what I know.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. That's why we have already right now, because there are these masters like Ziggurat, BIM A+ or stuff like that. Again, and some people have benefited a lot from that. Some people didn't really, depends. And like I didn't take any training to become a BIM coordinator. I just worked in different capacities as an engineer, designing things. And then I just jumped in this, right? So I in a way, I can say that I'm a self-taught BIM coordinator. In the end, I don't think you are going to find a BIM coordinator who has control over all the discipline. You are always going to have a BIM coordinator who comes from structural, one from electrical, MEP, whatever, right? But I'm not sure also how this can become like systematized, because it varies so much from country to country, right? If it's something, and in Norway it's happening something, but it's not about the qualification. In Norway it's always about what you can do, how you can make an impact in your project. If you can show that you can do that, nobody cares anymore about a diploma. But I mean, at least for this, if you need a civil engineer, or of course that's going to be checked, of course. But I mean, for this, that's the status right now, and it's one school which is teaching BIM technicians, right? So it's taking people who have worked during their career 2-3 years as an electrical plumber or whatever, and they become BIM technicians. They study for 1 year, and they learn how to use all these things. They learn how to do BIM modeling and BIM coordination. So they can choose whatever direction they go. They can specialize in infrastructure or buildings. But again, it's not about the diploma itself, although it might help them because they come from trade people to do this office work, right? I'm not sure what is the solution there. You mentioned Building Smart. I can tell you that Building Smart has something about that, and I'm actually in the process of becoming a registered training provider for Building Smart training.
They're preparing some certification, which is
yes, they have
idea.
some certifications. They have like the ones that I know. The most popular one is one called OpenBIM Foundation, which is a basic introduction in OpenBIM, which actually you need if you never worked with BIM, or you still work mostly with drawings, or you weren't exposed, you need that. But they have also something more advanced, which is more hands-on, right? And then you have to really know how to do things in practice. I don't know about other things, and I'm not sure if that's the solution. In the end, I still see that right now, at least, unfortunately, at the time that we speak, there is not really a crisis of people who can take jobs, but actually is the other way around. The competition on every job is quite high right now, and there are not so many jobs, especially with AI, right? Many people have just replaced or have given up posting new jobs just because they think AI is going to replace everyone to do everything, right? Is that good or bad? I'm not sure. You might be right again by that, but I don't have an answer, unfortunately. I just see, in the end, I think two things are important. The certification, but also the skills are equally important, right?
Yes, that's
but
right.
In the end, but if you are in a market where, like let's say in Norway, right, there is no one who offers this certification. There is something coming from VDC. There is that VDC training from Stanford, and that's something that a lot of job posts have it in Norway. But when it comes to BIM, you have dealt with BIM in different jobs. As a modeler, and then maybe you can upgrade and work also with coordination. But again, you are right. There is no, the people who have gone through Ziggurat, for example, and they got maybe a BIM management certification or something like that. But again, like you do, that is theory, right?
But again, they have weird classification on the market. They call themselves space manager.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know very well. I know a few people who took that, and for some of them have been useful. For some, maybe not so much. I'm not sure. Depends. But is that the answer? I'm not sure. But for sure, we need some training institutions to help with this. But should be that a barrier for people who have experience? Because in the end, like, the people with experience are going to make or break a project.
But I have one comment, Petru. We have in European Commission, we have a commission or we have definition what cucumber is, what the shape and the length should be in order to call it cucumber. So if we have that in EU, why don't we have a department for BIM and digital construction?
I think it's still a new thing. I heard about this kind of discussion in Romania.
I don't agree with you. Sorry, I don't know when you did your first BIM project, but I started in 2008. So it's 17 years since I did
Yeah,
my first project.
but I'll tell you the biggest challenge. You know what is the
17
biggest
years
challenge?
is like, you know, my daughter will be 18 in next year, so you
Congratulations.
know, how to say when somebody becomes after 18
Yeah,
eligible,
like a major, I don't know the word in English,
yeah.
but yeah.
But my daughter will become driver next year, and we still don't have in Europe. We don't have institution that will that can deal.
Yeah, I think you know what is the biggest challenge. It might be one of them, but there was no. First and foremost, it lacked any initiative. Like no one. Like if you get enough people that are putting this question like you, then somebody is going to do something about it. That's one thing. But then if you take any BIM roles, they are so freaking various one to another. There is no similar position. Even if it's BIM coordinator in the same company, you work in a project and you go in another project and your role is completely different. So it's very difficult to standardize this. That's one of the biggest challenges that I think. A BIM coordinator, like in my case, in my company where I used to work, like we used to, like the projects are different, run differently and different tasks in different sizes and so on. I'm not sure how you can standardize that, but I think you can have some defined roles. And also, if you look at all the job descriptions, you are going to see a complete mesh between everything, right? So it doesn't like now everyone expects one BIM person to do everything from modeling to management to coordination to be director and to do the laundry in a company or something like that. You see, like just look at the latest ads. It's crazy to where it has gotten, right? Because of AI. And I think that's the challenge. But again, like I'm not against that. Don't misunderstand me. I think we just need enough people. I personally, I was not preoccupied of that. So if you are, and if there are more people like you, for sure there should become like some noise about this, and then it's going to happen. I heard about something in Romania, in the Building Smart group in Romania. I heard them talking about trying to normalize these jobs in Romania to be able for somebody to be employed as this official position. But I'm not sure what happened. I think it didn't went through, but I don't know the details. I don't remember. Just that, but that doesn't mean that it will not try again. I just know that I think there was an attempt which it didn't ended up with anything, but maybe it's just one step before it's going to happen. So maybe if Romania is doing, maybe there are other countries which are doing it already. So maybe it will happen eventually, right? I'm not against it or like I think of course. If we have for civil engineers and architects, it should definitely be possible, right? Just that I think is the nature, you know. I think it's also something else and might be an advantage for us. But many see BIM positions, especially BIM coordinator and BIM managers, as a cost, not as something that give plus value for projects or organizations. And that's simply not true, right? Because these things that a BIM coordinator does or a BIM manager does are impossible to be done by somebody who has to use the most of their time with the design or quantity survey or surveying or other stuff, right? It's impossible. Like these things require a lot of time, and you need somebody to mesh and to put all these things together. Yeah, I don't want to go into a black hole right now.
But I think we are now with the BIM manager role. It's more closer to data analyst than any mechanical, structural, or electrical engineer, because we shouldn't pretend that we have basic knowledge. For example, when I'm inspecting when I'm reviewing the model or coordination between the disciplines, I'm just highlighting the issue, and we should let go mechanical and electrical. For example, if there is a clash, we should let them to agree who is going to move left or right or go down or whatever. It's not my role to say, look, guys, you need to go down, or So this is clear.
Yeah.
But I see my role mostly like a data presenter, schedules. Or database. For example, I was also working with just to be aware that for you to be aware, sorry, that I'm not just Autodesk operator, but I'm also a Hexagon guy, and I think they have better solution for infrastructure because they have a database that is not living in the model, that's external database. So that database is connected with the document control system. So if you're looking at R7, for example, position R7, you're looking in drawings, models, documents, reports, I don't know, specifications or whatever specs. So indeed, you're operating with the data. So I think this is the point where we should meet all as a BIM managers to pick up connect the data and let it flow between the disciplines. So that, for example, electrical guy through database and the document controller goes to and connects with mechanical guys so that they can read the results without opening the model, without opening the specifications. I know it's possible because I was doing that on Intel project in Germany. So we are coming now in AI era. We have data. We need to connect data. So
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but it's really hard to manage. Of course, a lot of work, a lot of training, a lot of knowledge needs to be gained. But I think it's feasible. With the people such as you who can support the knowledge transfer of knowledge. And I think it's not just about sorry, I'm giving a comment about your work now, but I think it's also important to recognize the champions. This is the reason why I call my show champions, because not every BIM manager or BIM coordinator are the equal. They have the title, but they don't have the same knowledge.
And
So
responsibility,
the first thing is that enthusiasm is something that needs to be recognized. In many cases, enthusiasm leads to success. So even if it's a failure, like I was the whole life I'm trying to be innovator, to be first in some technology, implementing in the office that I'm working for. So even if I'm pioneering, probably I was 80% successful. So what happens with 20% that you were not successful? I was lucky to work in Intel, and in Intel they have a mindset that people should fearlessly do the innovation without fear of failure. Because when people started to create the chip, microchip, they didn't know what they are doing. They were iterations. They were trying, and after 100 attempts, 101st attempt was successful.
Yeah,
So,
that's very nice. But
they defined like the innovator or R&D sector in Intel has more failures than successes. On every success you have hundreds of failures.
Yeah, nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. No, but the ones that have succeeded have made a huge impact on the humankind.
That's right. So this is why I'm trying always to point out with people. Sometimes the good example is fantastic. It's great to hear someone's success. But when I was working for Arup, I was a leader for lessons learned. That was once in 2 weeks or bi-weekly. Those were bi-weekly meetings, and on those meetings we were discussing what went wrong and what could we do in order to avoid the issue. So lesson, if you made a mistake and you keep it just for yourself and you're not sharing with your colleagues, it can repeat to you and to your colleague and to your colleagues, so it multiplies.
Yeah.
If you share, if you say, sorry guys, I made a mistake and you need to share what happened to me. What if you eliminate 4 replications, or like multiply it? So in my opinion, it's important to have the knowledge, but also to have some kind of workshops that are going to be permanent, maybe organized by you, so that we can join and we can learn from each other. This is the interaction between the people, not to have the professor and listeners, but to have interaction and to have a collaboration on several levels where people can share the knowledge and to share the failures. This is very important because failure is equally important, maybe even more important, because it makes a financial and financial problem mostly. And the second issue is that people lost the they don't believe in technology anymore because of that. So when I say that, I think about negative people in each company. I guess you know the people that are positive, that are trying to help, and mostly 30-40% of people are in every company are just waiting for a mistake and say, "Aha! I told you that you could make a mistake here," you know. So
yeah, well,
we need to set up the environment that is affirmative for innovation, and innovation is a risk, you know.
yeah, you said something there, like a thing that I like to do in my community, for example, is that we get exposed to both success and failure through trying to solve problems live.
That's right.
This is something that I learned that makes the biggest impact for me and for everyone in my training. Doing and looking for solutions live for something that I never done before. I have experience with other things, but I don't have experience with everything, right? So I'm not scared when I look into something. I start somewhere. It might take me maybe 3 or 4 meetings to get to a solution, and 2 or 3 are in different directions, but that's how you build. That's how you build the success, through different steps, which are exploration. I don't like to use the word failure, because I don't think in failure. I think it's just learning. You are just learning.
That's right.
Sometimes you go in the wrong direction, sometimes in the right
Opportunities
one.
for improvement.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But sorry, I think it's also equally important to have a map of knowledge, so that you have pockets of excellence. For example, I know Petru, and I know that he is tunnel and bridge specialist. So if I have a duct problem in a building, retail building, I'm not going to Petru and bother him about my issue.
yeah,
This is something that is typically not present in big companies, because in big companies, left leg very often doesn't know what the right leg is doing, you know. And I worked for Arup, I worked for ISG, I worked for Intel, I worked for General Electric. So those are all the big companies. And when you come to the company, you have 20 BIM coordinators, managers, or whatever.
yeah.
And you need a lot of time to understand who knows what,
The
and
processes and everything, yeah.
Yes, while when I was in position to manage the team, I had a classification, like you know, Petro is a engineer, and his special knowledge is this and that. You know, you need to map the knowledge and then recognize where the knowledge is missing or omitting, and fulfill that also with smart people.
I agree.